Hola clase! This presentation is going to explain and talk about verb conjugations for regular present tense verbs. I know that sounds like a lot, but this is really important, and it's actually not that hard once you understand it. So the first thing we want to understand is what present tense means. Present tense means that the action is happening in the present. It's what we do or what we are doing right now. What the regular part means is that these verbs will follow the rules that I'm going to explain to you throughout the rest of this presentation. Most of the verbs in the Spanish language are regular verbs in present tense. We'll study some irregular verbs later, but these are going to be the conjugations for regular present tense verbs. So regular just means that they follow these rules. So here's our chart, and yes, I know it's a little sloppy. I made this myself in another app, but I've showed you this before, so you should be able to get the point. Everything on this side of the chart is singular, one person doing the action, and everything on this side of the chart is plural, more than one person doing the action. When we say first person, that just means that I am involved. I am doing the action. Second person means you are involved. And the third person, it's not me, it's not you, it's a third person, it's someone else. If you don't understand this, just keep watching and hopefully you will get it. If not, you can always rewind and watch this video over until you do. So now we're going to start with AR verbs. Most of the verbs in the Spanish language are AR verbs. And usually, the example that they give for AR verbs is hablar, to speak, because hablar is easy. It always follows the rules. So now let's check out what the rules actually are for AR verb conjugations. The first thing we do when we conjugate a verb is we take off the ending. In this case, it's going to be the AR part of hablar. We remove it, and then we're going to add on the following endings based on who is doing the action. Now, if you don't know what these words mean, these are our subject pronouns, and I've given them to you a couple times. So if you need to freshen up on those, check your previous notes, because that's going to help you understand what ending is connected to what person. O, as, a, amos, ais, an. The main thing you have to remember with verb conjugation is that these endings are locked to the same subject pronoun. You cannot say yo hablan. You can't do it. It doesn't exist. You have to say yo hablo or ellos hablan. There's no jumping all around and combining these with these, and you see how it all just turns into a mess. Now, before we move on to ER and IR verbs, which are basically the same thing, just with different endings, I want to explain a couple things about verb conjugation in general and present tense verbs in particular. So we'll use yo hablo as the example here. Yo hablo means I speak, but with Spanish, because the O on the end of the verb already means that I do it, we can even leave off the yo and it still means I speak. It's not wrong if you leave the yo on, but sometimes it could be used to emphasize I speak, I'm the one who speaks, or I'm the one who's speaking. And also, yo hablo actually does mean both things. It means I speak, but it also means I am speaking, depending on the context of how you want to use it or how it's written in the sentence. So this might get a little confusing because in English we have to say I am doing something. We have to say I am. But we know in Spanish that I am is soy. It's also estoy, but we'll talk about that later. You never say yo soy hablo. Never, never, never. You do not need to translate I am. It's part of the verb. Yo hablo means both of these things depending on the context. So this also works for all the rest of the verb forms. Tu hablas means you speak, but depending on the context, it also could mean you are speaking. And again, we do not need to translate the you are part. It's already part of the verb. You do not need to translate it and say tu eres. You don't do that. Now, what most people have the most problems with not translating it exactly to English is this one. S. You always want to say, my friend is talking, my friend is studying. But in those cases, you do not need to say S. You just say, mi amiga habla, or mi amiga estudia. It's already part of the verb, and you do not need to translate S. So let's move on to the ER verbs. These don't really require much more of an explanation. You just have to know that they have different endings. You put different endings on ER verbs and IR verbs as well. So let's take a look at them. You can see that the ER endings basically follow the same pattern, except you're replacing the A of the AR conjugations with the E of the ER conjugation. IR verbs share 4 of the same conjugation endings as ER verbs. So we can skip right to the end so you can see just the 2 different nosotros and vosotros forms. And here they are, imos and is, compared to, for ER verbs, hemos and es. So that's it. We've talked about verb conjugation for AR, ER, and IR verbs in present tense. And for now, just make sure you have your notes filled in correctly, and if you need to rewind this and watch it more than once, that's totally fine. Hasta luego!